Hey there, how y'all doing? It's Jukebox Journey night, and I'm so excited. Everybody thinks they know the 80s, the hits, the hooks, the memories, but tonight isn't about what was popular, okay? It's about what was connected. Bands influencing bands, sounds crossing lanes, artists reacting to each other in real time. Now, if you've ever felt like certain songs are related, but you never knew why, this is that night. This is BBTV. This is Jukebox Journey. And tonight, we're hearing the connections most people miss. All right, all right. Y'all welcome in. Oh my goodness. I'm trying to make sure I got everything going here. And you know what? I don't think I do. But I am. I am trying to get it all together. It's just been one of those weeks, you guys. It really has. It's been one of those weeks. So, welcome in. Let's get comfortable for a second because this is one of those nights where if you're half listening, you're going to miss the whole point. This is BBTV. This is Jukebox Journey. And tonight is not about me proving I know more facts than you do. That's not the case. Not at all. Pardon me. I am doing my thing. Okay. See, because honestly, facts are easy, right? Okay. You can Google facts, you can scroll facts, you can get facts yelled at you on TikTok in 30 seconds flat and in probably 20 different languages. What's harder and what most people never slow down enough to do is connect things. Everybody thinks they understand the 80s. I don't think I even fully understand the 80s. And hey, I was there. Yeah. So, they remember the hits, the big hooks, the videos, the hair, the excess. You know how that goes. And that's fine. That's the surface story. But the surface story is never the interesting one. Okay. The interesting story is what was happening underneath when artists were watching each other in real time and quietly adjusting their sound without ever announcing it. Because here's the truth nobody likes to admit, okay? Musicians listen to other musicians constantly. They pretend they don't, okay? They act like everything came out of a vacuum, but it didn't. The 80s were long reaction chain. It's just one big long reaction chain. Band after band responding to what just happened 5 minutes before them. Now, rock didn't just wake up one day and sound different. Pop didn't magically change overnight, and metal certainly didn't get heavier by accident. Those shifts, they come from pressure, competition, fear, ego, sometimes admiration, sometimes jealousy. And if you can hear it, if you can stop treating songs like isolated objects and start treating them like answers to questions someone else already had, well, that's what we're doing tonight. This isn't a playlist where I tell you, here's a song you remember, now clap. No, I'm not that boring. Okay. No, seriously, I'm not that boring. But this is about asking why certain artists suddenly made different choices, right? So, why certain sounds also showed up in places they didn't really belong yet, and why some connections feel obvious once you hear them, even though nobody ever spelled them out for you, right? Okay, and look, you don't have to agree with me. Most definitely not. I'm not an expert, okay? I'm just sharing my opinion. I actually don't want you to agree with me, honestly. If you're sitting there nodding the whole time, I'm doing it wrong. What I want is that moment where you go, wait, hold on. That actually makes sense. Or I never put those two things together before. That's the fun part for me, because once you hear these connections, you can't unhear them. Okay. You start catching them everywhere. A riff reminds you of something older. A vocal choice feels familiar for a reason, right? Hi, Andrew. Hi, Jolene. Very well, glad you're here. Thank you for being here. Okay, to get back to that, um, a band suddenly makes more sense than it did 5 minutes ago, right? Totally true. Now, if you're here just for background noise, this may not be the night for you. Okay. No offense. But if you like slowing things down, pulling threads, and seeing how the music actually talks to itself over time, you actually, or you exactly let the room fill up. Let the pace stay a little slower than you're used to. And stay with me tonight, because the 80s weren't just loud. Okay. They were listening. So, pardon me, trying to get my stuff together here. And it's not. I don't know why. Trying a new thing that I had no idea about. And hopefully it's working. So let's stop circling it and actually put the first piece on the board, because every chain has a starting point, right? The moment when the room changes and nobody says it out loud yet, for some weird reason, this chain, that moment starts with Led Zeppelin. Okay. And here we go. I'm going to pull this up here. Now, Zeppelin didn't just play louder or heavier. They changed the scale of rock. They made it bigger, mythic, physical. Songs stopped feeling like performances and started feeling like events. And once that happened, every band that came after had to ask themselves a question they'd never had to answer before. How big is big enough? Oh, thank you so much, Laura. I appreciate you. Yes, I love a sub. I'll take a sub. I absolutely. Hey, Nisi. Love you, honey. That's my plus sister, y'all. Everybody tell her hello and tell her how much I love her. Okay, so that pressure, it didn't disappear when Zeppelin slowed down. Okay, it transferred. It just transferred. You hear it clearly when Kiss steps in and takes that sense of scale and turns it outward, where Zeppelin ruled through mystique, Kiss through presence. They didn't just want you to listen, okay? They wanted to occupy the room you were in, the makeup, the staging, the volume, the certainty. This wasn't subtle power. This was visible dominance. And once Kiss proved that spectacle, pardon me, goodness, I'm getting ahead of myself again, but it wasn't a subtle power. This was visible dominance. And once Kiss proved that spectacle could be the music, the bar moved again. That's where Van Halen enters the conversation, because Eddie didn't challenge spectacle. He challenged effort. He made virtuosity look joyful, right? Casual, almost accidental. Suddenly, power wasn't just about size or image anymore. It was about ease. And that terrified people, because when someone makes something that hard look that fun, everyone else has to rethink their entire identity. From there, the reaction splits. One path goes towards precision and intensity, and that's where Megadeth comes in. If Megadeth wasn't interested in joy or mass appeal, right? They were interested in a control, speed, accuracy, discipline. This was a response to excess, a statement that said, we can do more, faster and sharper, and we're not here to entertain you. That edge didn't exist in a vacuum. It was forged by everything that came before it. And then the chain takes a turn that most people don't expect because Primus shows up and rejects the entire conversation, not by being bigger or faster or sharper, but by being deliberately strange, okay? Where everyone else was competing for the crown, Primus stepped in. Crazy Primus. I love Primus, y'all. Tommy the Cat, my name. Sideways, Primus stepped sideways and proved that refusing the throne was its own kind of a power, and once that happened, the definition of dominance cracked. That's the chain, not copies, not coincidences, responses, one move forcing another move, whether anyone wanted to admit that or not. Oh. So, sorry, trying to get myself together still. Led Zeppelin, right? When Led Zeppelin established themselves, they didn't change what authority in music felt like. Okay, Zeppelin didn't chase attention. They assumed it. Their songs moved at their own pace, ignored radio rules, and trusted the listener to come along or be left behind. They got that FAFO attitude too. Almost like they were from Texas. Haha, yes, I'm a Texas girl. But, that kind of confidence is so rare because it really requires believing that music itself is enough. Even when it refuses to explain itself, Zeppelin ruled through distance, through myth, through the sense that something harder was happening just out of reach. Now, their power wasn't conversational. It was elemental. Okay. You didn't negotiate it. You stood inside it. And once audiences experienced that, they didn't want to go back to anything that felt smaller or apologetic. But here's the thing about that kind of power. Okay. It creates expectation. Once listeners are trained to recognize authority, the next artist, they don't get to reset the clock. They don't. And that's the pressure, that Queen stepped into. And instead of shrinking under it, they redefined it. Queen didn't reject Zeppelin's dominance. They accepted its premise and then asked a different question. If power can be large and unquestioned, does it have to remain mysterious and distant, or can it be precise, expressive, and deliberately shaped? Where Zeppelin, they let atmosphere do the work, right? Queen made decisions. You can hear it in the arrangements, the harmonies, the structure of the song themselves. Nothing feels accidental and nothing feels improvised. Everything feels chosen. This is where the power starts to evolve. Zeppelin showed that authority could be vast and unyielding. Queen showed that authority could also be articulate and controlled and designed. Their music doesn't drift. It moves with intention, and that intention is what makes the connection between these two artists so strong, because even though they don't sound alike on the surface, another important shift happens here, and it's subtle. Zeppelin's power invites, it invites awe. Queen's power invites participation. Freddie Mercury doesn't hide behind the music, right? He steps into it and leads from the front. But that leadership only worked because the foundation Zeppelin laid already had taught audiences how to recognize command. Queen didn't have to convince people that ambition was acceptable. Zeppelin had already done that work. But what Queen adds to the lineage is clarity. They take the scale Zeppelin normalized and show that it can be shaped and layered and directed without losing its force. Big doesn't have to be fake, right? Epic doesn't have to be untouchable. And power can sing, it can harmonize, it can dramatize itself without collapsing under its own weight. This is also where theatricality, pardon me, stops being a gimmick and becomes a language. Zeppelin's myth made room for imagination. Queen's drama made room for expression. That's not a step backwards, though. It's a refinement, a recognition that audiences were ready, not just to witness power, but to engage with it emotionally. Listen closely, okay? And you can hear the inheritance in confidence alone. Queen never sounds unsure. They never they gosh, they never hedge. They don't test ideas quietly. They present them fully formed and expect you to keep up. That expectation that the audience is capable of rising to the music is a direct continuation of what Zeppelin taught listeners to do. So the connection here isn't about copying riffs or borrowing a tone. It's about continuing authority. Zeppelin proved that music could command without compromise. Queen proved that music could command, or that command could be expressive, complex, and unapologetically bold without losing its grip. This is the moment where the crown doesn't fall, it changes shape. And once it does, everything that follows has more room to move. So now we get to go on to, I shall remove you. And y'all have to forgive me because I'm still learning these new little buttons and everything. It's so fun. Alrighty. So, I did the same one. No, I didn't. Yeah, I did. Sorry, guys. I'll get this. I will. It may be the next show before I do, but I'm still going to try. For some reason, I can't get this to copy and paste like I need it to. Go away and paste and paste and paste. Yay, and paste. You're not pasting. Why? All right. Well, when Queen stands on their own, it's this journey that becomes clear almost immediately, that they weren't just powerful. They were deliberate, right? Everything about Queen stands on their own in this journey. Why will you not work for me? I don't know. They give you a tool and then it won't work. It just don't work. I don't know why, but it don't. It just don't work. So I guess I'll stop trying to use the teleprompter for my notes. Whatever. Anyway. All right, y'all. Let's get back into this before I go nuts. Yep. So, Queen understood the weight of attention and decided very consciously how they were going to carry it. Okay. One of the most misunderstood things about Queen is how much discipline lives underneath the drama. People remember the spectacle, the theatrics, the big moments, but spectacle only works when it's anchored to control. Okay. Queen's music is structured, it's layered and intentional in a way that, it doesn't leave much to chance. Those harmonies aren't excess. They are architecture. Okay. Let's put it that way. Architecture. they build vertical space in the music the same way that Zeppelin built horizontal space with atmosphere. Different approach, same authority. So Freddie Mercury, his presence often overshadowed the fact that Queen was a band that functioned as a unit. Freddie didn't dominate because the others disappeared. He dominated because the foundation was solid enough to let him move freely. Now, Brian May's guitar doesn't compete with the vocals, it converses with them. Roger Taylor and John Deacon, they don't chase the flash, okay? They create stability. That balance is rare, and it's the reason Queen could stretch so far without collapsing. Now, Queen also solved a problem that many powerful bands never managed to solve: how to be complex without being inaccessible. I know it sounds complicated, but really it isn't. Their music is ambitious, but it isn't cold. It invites people in rather than daring them to keep up. That's a form of confidence that doesn't get talked about enough, I think, because it takes more authority to trust your audience than it does to overwhelm them. I think that's something all of us YouTubers have a problem with too, because yeah, we're always trying to one up ourselves, not anybody else, ourselves. But it takes more authority to trust your audience, okay? Now, another thing Queen mastered was emotional range. Yeah, I mean, come on. Y'all can't hear Somebody to Love without just jumping into it and feeling every single song, every little note they've ever put out, right? That flexibility, it didn't weaken their identity, it straightened it. Queen proved that consistency doesn't come from repeating yourself, but from carrying the same sense of intention into everything that you do. Life lesson there, okay? This is where Queen separates themselves from many of their peers. They weren't afraid of excess, but they weren't dependent on it either. The drama served the music, but the other way around. Even at their most theatrical, there's always a sense that the band knows exactly where the line is and chooses when it crosses for effect. So, audience command is another area where Queen stands alone. I mean, come on, y'all seen the movie. They talk about it, right? It's crazy, but they do. They talk about his commanding presence, about how he was able to command the whole room with just a few notes. You see in the movie where he'll sing something out and then they'll sing it right back to him. Not a lot of people even try to attempt to do that sort of thing because they don't trust the audience. They don't trust that they'll get up there and do that and the audience doesn't, totally flop on them like, yeah, whatever, dude, I'm not participating, okay? I mean, I kind of feel like that sometimes when I'm up here on this stage. But Freddie Mercury's presence often it overshadows the fact that Queen was a band that functioned as a unit. Okay. Freddie didn't dominate because the others disappeared. Okay. But Queen also solved a problem that many powerful bands never managed to solve. It's another Queen master with, the emotional range. And there was, I'm sorry, I'm getting distracted because I keep hearing things from the other room. But their influence also lies in what they normalized. Okay. They made it acceptable to be unapologetically ambitious, to blend genres without explanation, and to aim high without irony. That matters because it gave future artists permission to stop shrinking and to fit expectations. But once Queen proved you could be grand and still be taken seriously, the ceiling lifted for everyone who came after. What's important for, at least to me, to recognize is that Queen didn't dominate by intimidation. They dominated by clarity. You always know what Queen is doing, even when they're doing something unexpected. That clarity seizes or creates trust, right? And once an audience trusts you, they'll follow you through almost anything. Queen also occupies a unique place in this chain and my heart, okay? Because the bridge generations, it bridges generations effortlessly. You know, my children love Queen just as much as I do. And I used to walk around constantly with, all right, I'm dating myself here, but I had a tape player and I must have gone through at least 5 Queen tapes. The same one. And I think it was their greatest hits, but it had all the great ones, of course. And 5 different times my grandmother bought me another tape because it was all I would listen to. That and Kiss. See? Okay, babe. I love ya. Anyway. So now then, listening to Queen in isolation makes one thing obvious. They didn't chase relevance. They built it. Okay. They didn't wait for trends to validate them. They validated themselves and let the world adjust. That kind of self-assurance doesn't come from ego alone. It comes from preparation, vision, and an understanding of what you're capable of delivering. So when Queen stands alone in this journey, they represent something essential. They show that power doesn't have to be heavy to be authoritative. It doesn't have to be distant to be respected. It can be expressive, emotional, and unapologetically loud without losing its center. Queen didn't just hold the crown for a moment. They reshaped what the crown was allowed to look like. And once that happened, the next artist in the chain didn't have to prove that mastery was possible. Not at all. Let's get our next one in here. Hold up. Yep. I'm just totally lost. Now, you'll have to forgive me because right before I got on here, I found that my next artist, I made a video for it too, and it didn't work for some reason. So we have a picture, a very good picture. And I'm sorry. I love Sammy Hagar, but he is not part of Van Halen. Van Hagar, yes. Okay, but not Van Halen. And rest in peace, Eddie. I love you, man. Probably the biggest star crush I've ever had in my entire life. Yeah, I think everybody had the same thing, though, right? So when Queen hands the crown forward, they don't pass along a sound. They pass along permission to be brilliant, without apology, permission to be ambitious without shrinking yourself for accessibility. And once that permission exists, the next question, it becomes unavoidable. What happens when technical mastery stops sounding serious and starts sounding fun? That's where Van Halen enters the chain, and it's not subtle. Queen proved that complexity could be popular without being dumbed down. They trusted their audience to follow drama and harmony and scale. Van Halen took that trust and flipped the pardon me, flip the emotional posture where Queen's posture felt theatrical and commanding. Van Halen's power felt effortless. And that effortlessness is deceptive because it's one of the most disruptive forces in music. Van Halen didn't just play better than his peers, he made difficulty sound casual, okay? And that matters more than almost anything. Now, oh, crud. I can't do anything right today. It's just not working. All right. So that matters more than most anything, right? Because one once mastery took, or gosh, I can't even talk again. Once mastery looks easy, it raises the bar instantly for everybody else, not just technically, but psychologically. Other musicians didn't trust or didn't just hear Eddie and think, I need to practice more. They thought, I don't know if I can ever sound that great. Okay. And relaxed while doing it. That's a very different kind of pressure that Zeppelin or Queen created. Van Halen didn't dominate by size, they dominated by joy. There's a lightness in their sound that doesn't weaken it, okay? It strengthens it. Eddie smiles through things that should feel intimidating. That smile is power. It tells the audience and every musician watching that excellence doesn't have to look tortured or distant. Oh, goodness. Okay. Sorry, y'all. Um, so it can look alive, right? And that's the handoff from Queen to Van Halen. Queen made ambition feel acceptable. Van Halen made it feel approachable. They took the idea that greatness could be expressive and said it can also be playful. That shift changes everything because once power stops feeling heavy, it becomes contagious. But don't confuse that joy with simplicity, okay? Because Van Halen is disciplined, tight, intentional. The looseness is an illusion created by confidence, just like Queen. Nothing important is accidental here. The band works because every member understands space. Michael Anthony holds the floor. Alex Van Halen drives the momentum, and David Lee Roth becomes the conduit between, I guess, the band and the audience, not because he's the best singer in the room, but because he understands showmanship as communication and not ego. One moment, please. Of course, my dogs are going to get in the middle of this. They love Van Halen too, So anyway, yeah. I'm trying to make sure I'm prepared here. Van Halen also redefined what a front man and a guitarist could be together. Instead of competing for attention, they amplified each other. Eddie doesn't hide behind complexity, and Roth doesn't overshadow with music. That balance is rare, and it's why Van Halen feels less like a hierarchy and more like a system that's firing on all cylinders. This is where the lineage starts to split emotionally. Some artists hear Van Halen and feel liberated. Others feel challenged because joy can be threatening. When excellence looks fun, it removes excuses. You can't hide behind seriousness anymore. You can't pretend that struggle equals authenticity. Van Halen exposed that myth without ever saying a word. Pardon me. Okay, and that exposure, it sets up the next response in the chain because not everyone wanted music to smile. Not everyone wanted brightness, polish, and accessibility. As the 80s moved forward and joy became louder, another group of artists started sharpening their edges in the opposite direction, tightening, hardening, disciplining their sound in response. Van Halen didn't cause that reaction by accident. They caused it by raising the ceiling so high that standing still wasn't an option anymore. So when you listen to Van Halen in this context, don't just hear a flash or a run. Hear the confidence underneath it. Hear the mastery, because it becomes inviting instead of intimidating. And understand that once that shift happens, the next artist in the chain doesn't get to ignore it. They have to answer it. That answer is coming next. All right. So now, where are we at here? Yep. And you guys, I'm going to say this right before I do this. Listen, we are going to take a little bitty break because, my voice needs it. And I've still got two more bands to talk about. So I have made this wonderful little video to help share out my wonderful team members and their channels as well. So if you would, please just go ahead and have a little look-see for this one. And I'll be right back with you.
She came from the quiet storms, built a fire from the ground, turned a whisper to a warning. Now her voice shakes the town. Every setback was a lesson, every doubt became a key, unlocking something bigger. That's the rise of Boss B. When the lights go low, her vision hits high. She built a whole damn network off a promise and a try. Every sunrise, every moment, she's stacking legacy. This ain't just a channel, this is BBTV. Boss B rising, BBTV's igniting. Turn the volume up, yeah, the whole world's invited. From the gravel road to the neon dream, she built an empire out of broken wings. Boss B rising, sky ain't even the ceiling. When she hits go live, everybody feels it. She's the queen of the comeback, the storm in the stream, crafting stories out of heartbeats, making visions out of dreams. Got thunder in the hustle, got a voice that cuts clean. Every mic she touches turns the power unseen. So let further spin the numbers, let the views rise slow or fast. Boss B doesn't measure wins by echoes of the past. This moment is a pivot, this season's history. Bow down to the founder of the BBTV dynasty. Boss B rising, BBTV's igniting. Turn the volume up, yeah, the whole world's invited. From the gravel roads to the neon dream, she built an empire out of broken wings. Boss B rising, sky ain't even the ceiling. When she hits go live, everybody feels it.
Yeah, I'm singing.
Fire in the air, it's got truth in the frame. Got a heart that won't retire and a gift you can't name. Every loop, every letter, every dream she sets free. It's a love note to the world sign. Boss B. And the world keeps watching as the numbers climb, but she's counting all the moments, not the dollar signs. From the late night grind to the daylight scene, she's building something bigger than the algorithm's dream. Boss B rising, BBTV shining. Her story's rewriting, a legacy in real time. Boss B rising, BBTV's igniting. Turn the volume up, yeah, the whole world's invited. From the gravel roads to the neon dreams, she built an empire out of broken wings. Boss B rising, sky ain't even the ceiling. When she hits her take her place. This is BBTV. This is her grace.
Join Boss B for Ask a Bee Monday through Friday, 12 noon Central Standard Time and Jukebox Journey every Saturday, 8 p.m. Central Standard Time.
Let me get that off of there. Hello, we are back. All righty, let's get to the next one here. Let's see here. I've got hair on my face or something. Okay, back to it, right? Okay. So, our next. When Van Halen took over the room, okay, something very specific happened that people don't talk about enough. Power stopped feeling heavy. Eddie Van Halen didn't just change technique, he changed posture. Mastery no longer looked tense or tortured, it looked relaxed. It looked joyful. It looked like someone who wasn't worried about proving anything, but because the proof was happening in real time. That shift matters more than the tapping. Okay. Even though the tapping obviously was his signature, it matters more than the tone, more than the speed, because when excellence starts to look easy, it does something dangerous to the environment around it. It raises expectations without warning. Suddenly, effort alone isn't impressive anymore. Seriousness doesn't automatically equal depth. And for a lot of artists, watching from the sidelines, that creates discomfort, not jealousy, pressure. Van Halen didn't dominate by intimidation. They dominated by making greatness feel approachable. And that's a problem for musicians whose identity is built around control and discipline and intensity, right? Because joy removes excuses. If mastery can smile, then struggle no longer guarantees legitimacy. That's the psychological shift that sets the stage for Megadeth. Okay. Megadeth doesn't enter this lineage as rebellion for rebellion's sake. They enter as correction. Where Van Halen loosened the grip, Megadeth tightened it. Where Van Halen invited the audience in, Megadeth raised the bar and said, catch up. This isn't about aggression as attitude, okay? It's about precision as identity. Megadeth's power lives in structure, in discipline, in the refusal to soften edges for accessibility. Every riff is placed, every tempo shift is deliberate. There's no casual energy here, no sense of looseness. The music doesn't sway, it locks in. Okay. So, I do need to put that up here, don't I? Where are you? For some reason, I don't have a Megadeth on here. Well, I guess we'll just have to deal without it. Anyway, Megadeth isn't reacting to Van Halen's sound, right? They are reacting to Van Halen's effect, I guess would be the better way to put it. The effect of making virtuosity feel fun. Megadeth answers that by restoring weight to skill, by making mastery feel demanding again. You know what? I am going to do this because I need this. That's not it. Oh, hold up. Maybe it is. No, it's not. Okay. Anyway, so back to it. Not joyless, but uncompromising, right? This is where people misunderstand Megadeth if they only listen to the surface. They hear speed and assume chaos. But Megadeth is the opposite of chaos. It's order under pressure. The songs move fast because they are controlled, not because they are reckless. That's a very different expression of power than Van Halen's looseness, but it comes from the same lineage of confidence. Van Halen says we can do this and enjoy it. Megadeth says we can do this and expect you to keep up. Plain and simple. Pretty good. Both positions require authority. Both require certainty, and they just point in different emotional directions. And this is where the chain deepens, because once music splits this way, joy on one side, discipline on the other, artists further down the line start choosing where they belong, not statistically or stylistically. That's what I should be saying, but philosophically. Do you want power to feel inviting, or do you want it to feel learned? Megadeth builds their entire identity around the second answer. Another thing Megadeth restores to conversation is, I can't even, consequence is what I'm trying to say. Van Halen's music feels like freedom. Megadeth's music feels like responsibility. Miss a note and it matters. Lose focus and it shows. That tension becomes part of the sound. The listener feels it, okay? Even if they can't articulate why the music feels sharper, colder, or more demanding, this isn't negativity. It's intention. And Megadeth represents the moments where, pardon me, the crown stops being shared emotionally with the audience and becomes something you have to approach carefully. You're not invited to sing along. You're invited to listen closely. That creates a different kind of engagement, one built on respect rather than participation. And that matters historically because it proves that dominance in music, it doesn't belong to one emotional language. Power doesn't have to smile to be real. It can focus, it can harden, it can refuse to make itself comfortable for anyone. This is also why Megadeth fits cleanly into this chain, because instead of feeling like an outlier, they are not rejecting greatness. They are protecting it, protecting the idea that skill should still feel weighty. Now, that complexity should still demand attention. That music can challenge instead of soothe. Van Halen made excellence feel reachable. Megadeth made sure it felt earned. And when you put those two artists next to each other in this journey, you can hear the balance forming. One expands the emotional range of power. The other contracts it back into discipline. Neither erases the other. They coexist. They correct each other. That's how lineages survive, not by staying the same, but by responding to imbalance. So when you hear Megadeth tonight, don't hear anger first. Hear focus. Hear reaction. Hear the moment where the room got louder and brighter and looser, and someone decided to sharpen everything back into shape. That's not conflict. That's continuity. And that's the crown moving again. So, pardon me, I'm doing this thing again. So then, when Megadeth stands alone in this journey, it's important to clear something up right away. Okay. This is not a band built on anger for anger's sake. Megadeth is built on discipline, control, precision, the kind of focus that doesn't allow for shortcuts. If Van Halen made mastery feel joyful and Queen made it expressive, Megadeth made it non-negotiable. Megadeth's power comes from refusal to simplify, refusal to soften, to make the music comfortable just so more people can slide into it easily. That choice alone separates them from most of their peers. Megadeth never sounds like they're reaching for you. They sound like they're setting a standard and waiting to see who can meet it. And it's true. See, what defines Megadeth, I think, is structure under pressure. These songs move fast, but they're not chaotic. Every shift is deliberate. Every tempo change has intent. There's a sense that nothing here is accidental, and that sense creates tension. The listener feels like they need to pay attention because if they drift, they'll miss something important. That demand for attention is part of the authority. Another thing Megadeth brings into the lineage is seriousness without apology. This isn't seriousness as image or posturing, okay? It's seriousness as commitment. The music doesn't wink at you. It doesn't try to charm you. It assumes that you're capable of following complexity and expects you to rise to it. That expectation is confidence in its purest form. Megadeth also represents a moment where virtuosity stops being performative and becomes functional. Technique here isn't decoration, it's infrastructure. The speed, the precision, the tightness, all of it serves the purpose of control. This is mastery designed to hold shape under extreme conditions, not mastery designed to impress casually. There's also an emotional clarity to Megadeth that often gets overlooked. The music is intense, yes, but it's not unfocused. It knows exactly what it wants to be. That clarity creates trust. You may not always be comfortable inside it, but you always know where you stand. That's leadership. That's command. In the context of this chain, Megadeth becomes the counterweight that keeps power from drifting too far into ease. They remind the lineage that excellence still requires effort, attention, and discipline. That reminder matters because without it, power eventually loses its edge and becomes background noise. Megadeth doesn't exist to dominate charts or crowds, they exist to set a bar. And bars like that don't need mass approval to be effective. They influence quietly, deeply, and over time. Musicians hear it, serious listeners hear it. The ripple moves outward, even if it doesn't announce itself loudly. Now, what Megadeth ultimately proves is that authority in music doesn't have to be friendly. It doesn't have to be theatrical. It doesn't even have to invite participation. It can stand firm, demand respect, and let the work speak for itself. That's a kind of power that, well, it lasts longer than trends. So when Megadeth stands alone in this journey, they represent the moment where the crown settles into discipline, where confidence is expressed through control, where mastery feels heavy again, not because it's burdensome, but because it matters. And that's a fitting place to pause. Because once you've heard how power can smile and sing and command and discipline itself, you start to understand the full shape of the crown. Not one sound, not one emotion, but a lineage built on response, intention, and certainty. Okay? That's the journey tonight. Okay. Let's see if we can get us another one up here. So, before I wrap this part up for the night, because, yeah, it's getting late. But let me take just a minute here. I do have other videos I didn't play. I think I have one more. No, I have one more. I forgot to play my Kiss, so I'm going to play it now because I'm wearing my Kiss shirt. See? Anyway, while I'm finishing this up anyway. Anyway. Okay, there we go. Now, before I wrap it up, okay, let me just take a minute, because if this conversation is hitting for you, okay, this isn't a one-off thing. Jukebox Journey is an ongoing series. We don't rush it. We don't flatten it. And we don't do surface level takes. Every single show builds on the last one. Okay. lineages, connection, influence. Sorry, I guess I'm lagging a little bit. You'd think I was playing a game. Hold up. This is a stupid thing. Hello. What are we doing? Oh my goodness. So I'm like all stuck now. Sorry. I don't know what's going on. There we go. Are we going to play this time? Looks like it's trying to play catch up now. You know what? Let's just finish this out because this is stupid. All right. So, this conversation is hitting for you. This isn't a one-off thing. Okay. Jukebox Journey is an ongoing series. We don't rush in. We don't flatten it. All that mess. You know, every show builds on the last one. Lineages, connections, influence. That's the lane. And if you stayed with me, which it looks like a few of you might have, you already know this isn't background noise. Okay. This is sit down, lean in, listening. If you're not subscribed yet, now is the time to do that. Okay. Not because I'm chasing numbers, but because this show works best when the room is familiar. Hit the bell if you're one of the people who actually likes showing up live. Okay. Because the conversations are different when they happen in real time. We do this regularly here on BBTV and Jukebox Journey. It's one part of a bigger lineup, okay? Conversations, music, stories, and context that don't get rushed or watered down. If tonight made you hear something different, that's the point. That's the whole point. And the next show, it builds from here. So take a second, pardon me, hit that subscribe button. And guys, my memberships are back. So I would really love it if you try and consider to be a member. So take a second, settle that subscribe button, maybe hit the like if this one earned it. Okay. Because that's what I'm here to do is earn it. Make sure you're around for the next journey. Because let me tell you, this crown keeps moving and we're not done following it. All right. So, Momo, quit. Yes, I have a dog named Mojo. Okay, let me just put that out there. He's cute little shit, but I don't like him right now because he won't be quiet. Anyway, let's land this right away. Tonight wasn't about ranking anyone. It wasn't about who was better or louder or faster or who, or more important, it was about listening for movement. The way power shifts, the way influences travels, and the way artists respond to the room that they're standing in. What we followed tonight was a lineage, not a straight line, not a clean handoff, but a series of decisions. You heard how scale becomes presence, how presence becomes expression, how expression became joy, and how joy demanded discipline in response. That is how music stays alive. It doesn't freeze. It doesn't settle. It reacts. Once you start hearing music that way, it changes how you listen to everything else. Songs stop feeling isolated. Artists stop feeling random. You begin to hear intention instead of coincidence, pressure instead of trend, choice instead of accident. That's what Jukebox Journey is really about. Not really nostalgia, not replaying the past, but understanding why certain sounds still carry weight decades later and why some voices continue to matter long after the moment passed. If something clicked for you tonight, if you caught yourself thinking differently or hearing something you never noticed before, that's the work doing what it's supposed to do. So take that with you tonight. Let it sit. Let it change how you hear the next song that comes on. Okay. This is BBTV. This is Jukebox Journey. And tonight we followed the crown, not the to declare the winner, but to understand how power moves when music actively matters. I'm glad you were here, and I hope you'll show back up next weekend. Please do not be afraid to show up on Monday morning or Monday noon Central time for Ask a Bee, because I will be here. All right. If you'd like to be a panelist, I'm going to put your email addresses up there. Y'all come on. You can send in your letters to ask questions. You can be a panelist. Any of those emails you need to get with the other channels that we got going on here. We are the Iron Sharpening Iron universe. And let me tell you, I had somebody write yet another email. Let me explain memberships to you real quick in case you don't know, okay? You cannot buy one membership. Membership. Lovely. You cannot buy one membership and it go across other channels. If you want to support my channel, you have to go directly to the join button either on my page, my channel, or on my video. If you want to gift membership anybody, you have to be on whoever's page you are supporting. Okay, let's just put it that way. You have to be on that page. You can always go and look. There's always going to be a little emblem there that shows you whose channel it is. And you know what? I encourage you to join all of us. There's Big Jack, there's Mama Lions, and Walt Talks doesn't have much of a page yet. We're trying to convince him otherwise. But, you know, we love him just the way he is. So maybe we shouldn't create that monster. Anyway, y'all be sure if you want to get joined up, super chats, all that stuff, same concept. You have to be on the page that you want to support. If you want to support us all, that's great. If you want to go and support Big Jack instead of me, I'm okay with that too. We are a team and we celebrate each other's accomplishments here. Okay. So I'm going to let that go for now. Thank you so very much for being here. I really do appreciate it. I had few stay here with me, so that's great. I love you guys, and I will see you Monday.